Mr. Nqabayomzi, oh my God, I'm so sorry. What the hell? I swear I know how to pronounce your name. Nqabayomzi Kwankwa. I know. I promise. I'm sorry. Yeah, please. Okay, thanks. Mr. Nqabayomzi Kwankwa, Deputy Leader of the United Democratic Movement, welcome to Pap Politics.
Mhlekazi Tibos, thank you very much for having us. It's an honor to be here today. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for honoring the invitation. I don't know if you've seen the podcast, but generally we start with, I guess we call it an icebreaker. And usually what I do is I take, when you think of politicians, you think politics, very stiff upper lip, and then the juxtaposition to that is pop culture. So I usually would start with like pictures of famous people, but I feel like you would know some of these people, so you'd get it right. So I thought, okay, let me do something else. I'm going to ask you something and you just answer as honestly as possible, okay? What's a talent of yours that people would be so surprised to know you have that's generally considered uncharacteristic of a politician?
Maybe... I'm not sure whether people don't know about it or not, but it's the fact that I was a chorister growing up, so I tend to sing a lot in church when I have time to go to church once in a while.
Wait, so you've got a voice on you?
I hope I still do.
Generally, people who do, when you're a choir boy, generally, it stays with you for a while, and so you hum in the shower or on your way to...
I think I lack discipline now. I mean, I change tunes every now and then. Yeah, but it's still there, I suppose.
When we think about now, it's such a politically charged environment.
Yeah.
The political arena has evolved so much over the past few years. Now you've got Bossa, you've got the Good Party, you've got the Rise Mzansi. They're now one party going into next year's elections. Helen Zille's running for mayor again. It's such a different environment. Do you think to some extent this could serve the United Democratic Movement well ahead of the local government elections?
Well, yeah, no, it would. I mean, what many people don't know that we were part of the process at its initial stages that led to the formation of the United for Change or something, the three political parties that come together.
Yeah.
Unite
for Change, yeah.
Unite for Change, I
yes.
think. We're part of the talks that led to this process. I would say to a large extent, without giving ourselves too much credit, but we initiated the process. Okay. But when they wanted to come together, it was too premature for us because we have an elective Congress coming up. And we said they can go ahead and actually join forces in the meantime while we have to go and get a mandate from the elective Congress of the UDM about whether or not we should join forces with them or go our separate ways. But for now, the UDM still retains its position as an independent organization. Here, of course, it changes the dynamics slightly because now you have smaller parties that are able to come together and pool their resources and work towards a common goal.
Sure.
But it's a game of differentiation. I mean, it's competition. We will go clearly if we have not held the elective Congress, which will tell us as to whether we should go left or right. It means that into the foreseeable future, the UDM will actually contest elections under the UDM banner until further notice.
And obviously it is crunch time for pretty much any political party now. This time next year, slightly later, depending on what the IEC says, we will be going to the polls for the local government elections.
Correct.
Do you think as the UDM, being a somewhat smaller party, you're more I guess, agilitated towards you're likely to hit the ground running and be more effective in smaller communities?
Well, it's because we know we have a very loyal base. So we are going to start working on our base, activate our base on time so that by the time the elections come, we know that they are ready to go and cast the ballot in our favor. But obviously, a lot of work has to be done between now and the elections. The assessment of what happens, political dynamics in various provinces, which will influence how you deploy your resources for the campaign, areas you're going to focus on. So we still have to go through that exercise before we're able to plan properly for the elections. But in the meantime, the legroom is taking place politically where we're trying to increase visibility in various parts of the country. But yeah, there's potential for growth. because some of the so-called largest parties aren't doing well in some provinces, in some areas around the country. And as a smaller party, I suppose if you were in the army, you would say you get used to some guerrilla tactics because you don't have the resources to be able to match them pound for pound. So you need to be very strategic and tactical in your approach when you contest elections.
And yes, I mean, local government elections is very important because it's in a way it's a precursor to
No, correct.
the national elections. And I know that's what everybody's talking about. But I'm very interested in when you think about the GNU, the Government of National Unity. Mm-hmm. Some people may have forgotten that the UDM initially wasn't in the Government of National Unity. You were in the Progressive Caucus, which was supposed to be this band of political parties. There was supposed to be this force, and you threw a curveball at us and joined the GNU. Why did you do that?
Well, I'm probably saying this for the first time in public, is the fact that there was a lot of dishonesty that characterized the formation of the Progressive Caucus. Let me give an example. After the official announcement of the election results in 2020, where are we now? 2024, the national elections, we had a brief caucus. All the sister opposition parties. And the former chairperson of the EFF, what's his name?
Dalimpofu. Oh, Dalimpofu, yes.
Dalimpofu,
yes.
Actually led the caucus on behalf of the EFF. And one of the resolutions that we took in that discussion was that we were supposed to negotiate as a bloc. We would negotiate with the ANC as a bloc. We would not allow the ANC to divide the opposition or to negotiate with parties individually. That was the, in principle, agreement we left the results center with. But immediately some of the very same organizations started negotiating with the ANC. And when those negotiations fell apart, then they wanted to form what we now call the Progressive Caucus. And in the Progressive Caucus itself, people then said the very same thing that we said during our discussion at the results center, meaning because the negotiations with the ANC had collapsed for them, they were trying to close the door for other parties to negotiate with the ANC.
Wow.
Because obviously the intention is to maximize whatever benefit they could get out of the GNU by using the collective. So we exercised our own individual right as a political party to be able to negotiate with the ANC the same way that the other largest parties were negotiating with the ANC and not focusing on the Progressive Caucus.
It's interesting because you have the likes of, I think it was Julius Malema, who branded the UDM and the Pan-Africanist Congress as sellouts because you left.
No, they were the first ones to sell out.
I had no idea.
They are the first ones to sell out. If you remember how the ANC conducted its negotiations, it first went to the largest opposition parties.
Yes.
I remember they made attempts to talk to President Zuma. I'm not too sure whether they were able to negotiate with the old man, but I think they did make attempts. But the EFF in particular was actively negotiating with the ANC while we were sitting on the sidelines, waiting for the Progressive Caucus to come together and decide the way forward. And as soon as those negotiations collapsed, then they hastily formed the Progressive Caucus. We're part of that meeting, the inaugural meeting of the Progressive Caucus. But we're not going to, we're not naive politically. Sure. We're not going to sit in the meeting and allow sister opposition parties to decide for us what we should do.
You've got the general, you definitely.
No, of course.
Yeah.
Of course, we said exactly the same thing. We're not negotiating because that's what people were saying around the table when we knew that behind the scenes there were. And as soon as there was some kind of agreement between us and the African National Congress, obviously we had to consider what was in the best interest of the UDM in that context. And that's exactly what we did.
And I'm hearing you tell me this now, but are you surprised by what's become of the Progressive Caucus? Because the EFF it was at loggerheads with the MK party, and all has to do with, Floyd Shivambu leaving and joining the MK party. Do you think it still has stability and has what it takes to be effective as an opposition structure? It is, in a way, an opposition structure, or meant to be, in Parliament.
Well, I don't think I'm the right person to comment about what the happenings at the Progressive Caucus. Now that we were considered to have been booted out because we joined the government of national unity, but that's for those parties to sit down and probably sort themselves out and discuss the way forward as to how they want to cooperate with one another. Because as opposition, in order for you to be able to be an effective opposition in parliament, there needs to be some kind of level of cooperation between the parties that are in opposition.
Sure.
Coordinate your program, cooperate on some issues, join forces when it comes to voting on particular issues to try and frustrate and also hold to account the governing party. I feel because of what seems to be a disintegration of the Progressive Caucus has done a disservice to that particular role in Parliament, because I think at times, I'm not an expert on this, they could cooperate and coordinate their work program in Parliament better.
And we know this, that opposition structures can be effective.
Yeah.
They can be effective, and it's worked in South Africa quite well. And when you speak about the GNU, I often wonder, I mean, I had Michael Beaumont a couple of months ago, and obviously he was speaking as somebody who's, from the outside, and obviously very critical of the GNU. What happens when the ANC and DA are at each other's throats? For you as GNU members, I'm curious, are you expected to take a stance, or do you sit on the sidelines and watch as all this crossfire goes on? And obviously I'm asking because we've never had anything like this before. You know, it's very precedent setting. I've often wondered what your place is as a member of the GNU who's in a way affected by it, but not directly.
I think the South African voters have allowed a nonsensical precedent to be set in how the GNU is structured and how it was formed. You can't have a coalition government where the largest party has individual bilateral agreements with each and every single political party in that arrangement without there being a binding document, an overarching document that we are going to agree upon. For example, some of the parties that say they have signed the statement of intent, I have no proof whether they have also signed the statement of intent or whether the statement of intent we have signed is the same document.
Wow.
Could be different, we don't know.
Have you ever considered that?
Yeah, I mean, it's what the South African voters have allowed, and they've lowered the bar of accountability insofar as what they expect from the government, the coalition government, because the accountability should come from everyone about those strategic objectives they seek or want to achieve for the country. We've been calling for the longest period, because then we would not be suffering from this so-called ideological schizophrenia. I mean, it's almost like it's a pay-as-you-go arrangement where we take it one issue at a time. You can't run a government like that. You are supposed to agree on a minimum program of action for the next 5 years. And it shouldn't matter who is in charge of that coalition. Whoever comes in should be able to implement the agreed-upon program. If they can't, they should be chucked out. Now, the challenge with what happens between the DA and the ANC is often that you can't really get involved, because the DA will remind you that we're in coalition with the ANC and not with you, even though we're GNU members, which is quite right, because they signed a statement of intent with the ANC and not with the rest of the GNU partners. But the same thing can be said about the Patriotic Alliance when they were toying recently saying we are going to exit the GNU. It is simply because they also signed their own individual statement of intent with the ANC. And I suppose they were making demands on the basis of whatever personalized individual arrangement they have with the African National Congress. And that's a recipe for disaster. It means every time you are going to find opportunities for political theatrics and political point scoring when there are matters of national importance. And it also means that if you have such a very loose, and I don't know what arrangement, that kind of arrangement to call it, then it becomes difficult for government to be able to implement some kind of a coherent and a unified program. The consultation process will always occur on an ad hoc basis. There's something coming up, and then a meeting would be hastily convened for people to consider it. And that's why then you see some of the largest parties like the DA, not their spokesperson, fighting with the ANC on matters that have to do with the budget, disagreeing on foreign policy, because such a discussion has never actually taken place in the context of the GNU. I mean, we just, if you look at the statement of intent, for us, it's an in-principle agreement. It captures the principles around which we are going to cooperate and that form the fundamental basis of your agreement. But it doesn't deal with the programmatic work of government. How are you going to deal with issues of foreign policy? How are you going to deal with the allocation of resources? What are the priorities and whatnot? Even the medium-term development plan was only adopted recently, but there was no extensive consultation on the document. You can't tell us that by just reading the manifestos of the different parties and you allow technocrats to develop a document that's consultation.
Yeah.
And then you parties are told, in fact, you see in the media that the document has been adopted and it's going to, the president announced the medium-term development plan during SONA at the beginning of the year as if it was fait accompli, and yet most of the parties had not seen it.
Oh. It's almost like a government in limbo, and you're
It is.
supposed to kind of go with whatever, And my thing is, so what I'm getting from you now is that basically each party interprets the GNU agreement as they interpret it. And then it leads to this massive misunderstanding. People don't necessarily know what the confines of the agreement is as it pertains to how they're supposed to govern. But then how do you govern when there's all this misunderstanding?
Yeah, no. Well, I think if the meeting of party leaders, the GNU party leaders, that consultative forum, was able or could meet on a more regular basis, it would be easier to govern. It would also make it easier for us to reach consensus on some of the contentious issues, such as the budget, for example. What should the priorities be? But all of those should start right at the beginning of the cycle. Like finance, if you're dealing with the budget, you have to capture the entire cycle of the budget from start to finish, including the medium-term budget policy statement, right? Which is the adjustments budget. If you don't capture that and you're not able to influence that right at the beginning of the process, it means you are just a passenger in the GNU arrangement. And these are some of the things that we've been talking about. Even a simple thing like the clearinghouse. Even the name tells you that it's reactive. It does not deal with any work of the GNU proactively. It's a dispute resolution mechanism. And now, if the meeting of party leaders does not sit as regularly as it should, and the clearinghouse also does not sit until there's a dispute or there's a challenge, then it means it's an understatement to say the GNU is on autopilot.
You operate within this as, yes, you're in the GNU, but you're essentially an opposition leader, right? How do you distinguish yourself as, the UDM? You have your own set of values, and it's hard sometimes when in the midst of all of this, things play out a certain way, but I can imagine it's not always easy having to kind of leave your mark, and if you're gonna convince somebody to vote for you, right, as a party.
Yeah, well, it's a very complex arrangement in the sense that on the one hand you are government, on the other the people who voted for you, they expect you to see playing your opposition, so in inverted commas role or oppositionist role, and you have to find the right balance. Some of the programs or programmatic work that is being implemented in the GNU is aligned with UDM principles, values, and policies. Yeah. So when that happens, obviously you're not going to grandstand at the expense of the public of what you believe it's in the public interest. But there are times when you differ fundamentally with some of the programs of the ANC or the largest parties in the GNU arrangement, then you have to be vocal about it. At times, look at the budget, for an example. We did not get to agree with a lot of proposals that were being tabled, but we did not want to frustrate the process. We had to try and look at the bigger picture, right? So you raise concerns with the intention to say we need various platforms created so that we can thresh these things out, find a way of reaching consensus, but you allow progress to continue. But if you're not careful, then you can be easily taken advantage of by the largest parties in terms of what they are trying to do. Typical example, the VAT issue. When the proposal to increase VAT came, we rejected it outright, right? Sure. After some convincing, some compromises, some tweaking here and there, putting more money into the pockets of the poor, trying to do a redistribution of income using VAT. So we say, fine, it's still a political hot potato, but we're willing to support it. But we'll then monitor and make sure that all the programs that were being proposed would be implemented, right? While we're busy with that process, just when we supported, then the DA takes the ANC to court And then they have an out-of-court settlement which did not involve the rest of the JNU partners. So it became a victory for the DA. And then for the ANC, it was a face-saving exercise. The rest of us were left with an egg on our faces.
Now, one thing I think we've learned over the past few months. I mean, look, a couple of years ago we had the Zondo Commission, right?
Yeah.
And it laid bare the extent of rot under the then Zuma administration. And now you've got the Mkhwanazi, the parliamentary probe, and we've got the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry underway. And this has pretty much, I mean, it's further exposed the extent of police corruption. And that affects not just faith in the justice system, but faith in our politicians.
Yeah.
Do you think that it's almost like a eureka moment for South Africa, because it's a wake-up call? He opened this Pandora's box. Do you think this has changed or will change how South Africans look at our politicians, people whom we're supposed to trust? Yes, we've been through this song and dance before, but I don't think people understood the extent to which we're experiencing it.
Well, I would hope as a politician, certainly one who's not involved in any of these things, including the UDM, that our people would not paint us with the same brush.
Sure.
But they would help us to ensure that there's accountability, that people do not do like what they've done, the corruption that happened at SAPS. I mean, even with the Zondo Commission, I mean, there were recommendations which were made which are still yet to be implemented, both by government. And we do not feel, even though we've tried to put Parliament under pressure to consider some of the recommendations and to try and force some of the relevant institutions to make sure that they act on them, but we're limited in terms of what we can do. The political will to make sure that something is being done or people are being held to account for their actions really has to come from the executive and if you like, from the criminal justice system as well. But I'm aware that at some point Advocate Baloyi did complain about capacity constraints even at the NPA.
Before Parliament, yeah.
And until we address those issues, we shouldn't be scapegoating people for the failures of the political elite that runs the country to be able to prioritize in terms of resource allocation what is important. If you are going to deal with governance issues, it means people must be held to account and be locked up if they are found guilty of any misdemeanors, especially insofar as the resources of the state are concerned. Until we get that and we get politicians who are senior and high up in political parties and government to be held to account, we're not going to win this fight. You are just going to change. I mean, if you were to change, imagine you are going to change a police minister, put another police minister. But if you don't deal with the systemic challenges in SAPS, before you know it, that minister will also fail. The same can be said about other departments. So it means that there's a proper cleanup that needs to be done in various government departments, because I do not think that what's happening at SAPS is. I think it's an indication of the extent of challenges that most of the government departments face across the board, including the local government sphere.
I hadn't thought about it like that. And now, we've had a good thing going. I don't know how you're gonna take this question, but I really have to ask it, because maybe you might be violating some kind of party protocol. But you know that people consider you the future of the UDM. You know that. And, there were earlier reports this year that, okay, Mr. Bantu Holomisa was going to resign, and then you were going to be named, the leader of the party. And then he said, that's nonsense, that's not happening. We now know it's not happening. What have you and the general said about that, about your future in the party?
No, remember, I lead with a retired army general.
Of course.
So most of the information is classified.
I knew it. I knew it.
That's not the kind of discussion he would have with you. And his response would be very procedural. We have to go to an elective Congress. But remember, it's because it's not up to him to decide exactly who's going to succeed him in the party.
Of course.
The party structures have to make that call.
Of course.
And the general, when he's ready to retire, he will say so and probably help us to pave a way forward. Whether it's Kwankwa is part of that or Kwankwa is not part of that, to me, is not important. What is important is that the UDM must outlive both of us. and many of the leaders were there. And but I think what is clear is that the party is working very hard on its succession plan. I mean, a lot of our councillors are young people. Some of the provinces are led by young people, right? At the provincial secretary, chairperson level. I mean, I'm one of the young deployees of the party.
Sure.
Which means even if it's not Kwankwa, but there's a community of leaders that the UDM has developed who are more than capable of taking the party forward, whether Kwankwa is part of that equation or not.
That's a very good answer. But, okay, does the slight prospect, just the slight prospect of you leading the party, does it excite you? Does it, how do you feel about that? Just a slight prospect of you leading the party. You know, obviously we can't put the cart before the horse, but...
Yeah, well, it would, because, I mean, I've been mentored. I mean, I know the party inside out.
Of course, yeah.
I know the party inside out. I've worked with the general for 15 years now. Yeah. That makes me feel old, although it feels like yesterday when we started working together. I worked with him for 15 years.
Yeah.
And I've occupied different roles. Deputy President, Chief Whip. Now I'm the parliamentary leader because he's not there. That's why it's important for me to maintain the party visibility at a macro level, right, even in Parliament, and be able to make sure that it doesn't get drowned out, its voice, by the largest parties, including their PR machinery, and making also sure that I take over the political program and the political diary of the president, because it's in the GNU. So I have to now, I'm the one with other leaders like the TG in the party, have to make sure that the provincial councils take place, the provincial congresses take place, and many other party political events take place, so that the party is able to exist and continue even while the general is in the GNU, because he can't do both.
Of course.
If people do not see that as a way of saying that the party is planning its proper succession planning, so that when it's time for the senior leaders to exit, those of us who are in the second layer of leadership or level of leadership know exactly what to do in order to sustain the organization.
Like you say, it's been 15 years and he's been a mentor to you. What do you think he's taught you that's served you so well as a leader, as a politician, as a parliamentarian that you apply?
Integrity, honesty, and an incredible work ethic. That man doesn't rest, even during elections. I mean, I struggle to keep up with him during campaigns. I mean, the general can start with his door-to-door campaigns as early as 8 o'clock in the morning. Wow. He will just continue right through until 1900, right? Taking a 5-minute break. You're lucky if he takes a 5-minute break, going to people, solving problems, interacting with communities, and then he flies out in the evening, goes to another province, repeats the same cycle, right? I do that for 1-2 days and then I need a break after that. But also the level of commitment to and upholding democracy in South Africa. I mean, when there was some threats to democracy during the Jacob Zuma years, things that we didn't agree upon, he convened most of those meetings. He took most of the initiatives by convening the forum of the opposition parties. He would strategize, he would make proposals about what to do, hence the secret ballot application that no political party believed that we had prospects of success, even when we lost at the Western Cape High Court, and many other initiatives. So it is that staying the course. If you believe in something, implement it, but also when it comes to leading our people in the party, do so fairly, without any attempts at personal aggrandizement.
Oh, okay. Well, Mr. Kwankwa, I genuinely appreciate it. And I often say that personality often shapes politics, whether you like it or not.
Correct.
Genuinely appreciate it.
No, thank you very much for the opportunity. I hope I've been able to answer some of your questions.
Yes.
If not, then we'll have to do round 2. But thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank
much
you so
appreciated.
much. Thank you.
Yeah, Bulet.